One thing I asked for.
This is wonderful.
Well, this is a very pleasant surprise. Obviously, I booked the biggest place I could find, y'all. So, yeah, thanks for that. This is going to try to be a celebration, right? But, I mean, I'm no idiot. There's going to be some tears. I doubt I'll make it through what I have to say without some tears. But I'm trained at this, so I'm going to offer a little bit of that right now. We're going to make a little pact in this room that when anybody in this room starts to struggle, and we know they're struggling, why? Anybody? They're not breathing, right? If you see someone next to you, put a hand on them maybe and just say breathe. If you see anybody up here in that situation tonight, just remind them it's okay to be vocal in our audience, right? Just remind them, breathe. You can be all about it. So let's try it right now, okay? We're a little role-playing game here. We go. Ready? 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm up here and I can't breathe. Breathe. And I will. Now, if they got their stuff together and they're breathing up here, let them do their thing, right? But that, yeah, just a little community breathing never hurts any of us. So, wow. I mean, very upstaged by that microphone right now. Kind of wondering why I don't have that microphone right now. Hydrate for the healing. Okay, we're gonna do this, y'all. Thank you for being here today. I wanted to take a moment to thank Artist Rep, specifically Mallory Mir-Shrafi, for opening up this space and jumping through major weather hurdles in order to let us be able to gather here tonight in the middle of their tech rehearsal process. So thank you, Artist Rep. We've gathered to celebrate the life and the memories we share of Ernest David Lijoi, known affectionately as Ernie. This won't be the last time I talk about Ernie, so I won't say everything I could say, and you're welcome for that. Ernie was born on October 5th, 1968, and raised on the mean streets of Boston. Well, actually, Dedham, Massachusetts, a suburb of Boston, but stick with me, I'm Harriet Building. He was the second son of Ernie and Chi-Chi Lijoi, Ernie Sr., as he became known, is where little Ernie got his skill for spinning a yarn. And if you don't believe me, spend some time with Ernie Sr. and see what I mean. And our darling Chi-Chi, that's where he got that sardonically sweet smile. That lets us know everything's okay, but also something's up. Ernie is also survived by his brother Joe, and we are honored to have his family with us today. As children, Ernie and Joe spent a great deal of time with their grandmother Mary, help me, Scardacci, who lived right next door. Her cooking was legendary, and it is from her that Ernie learned his culinary skills. His sauce is the stuff of legend. And if you've never had his eggplant parm, well, you should count that amongst your deepest regrets. Ernie also had another loving grandmother in Mary Lijoi, who passed when he was 19. To no one's surprise, Ernie was chosen for the gifted and talented program in 6th grade. His favorite teacher was Mr. Ed Moreau, who was also a musician and who would later play on Ernie's albums. They remain friends to this day. Upon graduating from Dedham High School, the mean streets of Boston, Ernie went to Southeastern Massachusetts University in Dartmouth, where he got 2 bachelor's degrees, one in computer engineering and another in math and physics. His father said, "I don't care what you study, but you're not going to one of those damn liberal arts colleges." It was upon hearing this that I informed Ernie Sr. that I teach at a liberal arts college. As it turned out, those degrees paid off for Ernie, giving him the security he needed in order to let his creative juices erupt later in life. After graduation, Ernie spent some time performing in musicals and various regional theaters. I mean, how many times can one person play Miles Gloriosus and a funny thing happened on the way to the floor? Apparently lots. This is also where he met his then partner and longtime close friend, David Benoit. David went on to years of performing on Broadway and in Broadway tours, while Ernie used his degrees, made money, and eventually moved to New York City to become a lyricist, studying at the prestigious BMI Lehman Ingle Music Theater Workshop. It was during his time at BMI that Ernie crossed paths with Barbara Anselmi, who would later give him the opportunity of a lifetime. If Ernie had a god, it was undoubtedly Stephen Sondheim. Like Sondheim, Ernie was meticulous with rhyming and obsessive about the way his words scanned onto the music. He was also interested in breaking forms and writing stories that were smart and complicated. In 1998, a friend mentioned that he had Sondheim's contact info and that Ernie should send him his newest album, Bliss. Ernie, thinking it was a joke, sent Sondheim a letter, his album, and a few nude photos. Sondheim's reply. Because Sondheim was famous for replying to anyone who ever wrote. January 11th, 1999. Dear Mr. Lijoi, I listened to your CD and enjoyed it. I can understand, however, your harsh assessment about your own work. I would certainly suggest that you try a little less hard in your lyrics to make them literate and poetic. Simplicity, although hard to come by, will help you find your own voice. Although you haven't asked for a lecture. Oh, Steve. I strongly suggest that you look carefully at the difference between identities and rhymes. Identities dampen the rhyme scheme. Thank you. And I think that you overuse Latin roots, as do many young writers. They're easier to rhyme, but they tend to make lyrics stiff and formal and literary, and should be used sparingly. Keep writing. It's the best way to get better. and I look forward to your website. So 1999. Yours sincerely, Steven Sondheim. I'm going to take a little drink of water, sorry, y'all.
You'll notice there are no identities in any music word after that.
Well, hold on, don't jump my...
Oh, sorry.
You'll notice he did not comment on the news.
Yeah.
I think that probably got to Ernie probably more than anything. What? Beautiful! It's amazing to look back on this note and recognize that Ernie not only implemented all of Sondheim's notes, but they became distinct parts of his own artistic signature. And if you've ever had the argument with him about imperfect rhymes are more imperfect than their rhymes, solidarity. Ernie and I passed like two ships in the night in New York City. He moved to New York the month before 9/11, and I left the month after. We would often joke about what a force we would have been had we met then, adding another 20 years to our creative relationship. Who knows, we probably would have ended up in prison for attempting to kill each other. But we may also have had our dreams come true and made it to Broadway. Actually, Ernie did make it to Broadway. There's an old saying amongst theater people, you gotta leave New York City to make it in New York City. Mostly applies to people going out on tour, but for Ernie, it was after he moved to Portland and his work was represented in a musical. The musical, It Should Have Been You. His longtime friend from BMI, Barbara Anselmi, included 2 of his songs in the score she created. Anybody else here with some Broadway credits? Yeah, we'll get there. In New York City, Ernie met the love of his life, Greg Parkinson. They were married before any of us even knew we could get married, and they shared 2 beautiful homes in New Jersey, the first in Edgewater. The house was old and funky, Greg's word. But over the years, they turned it into their fantasy home. It had a large backyard, which they landscaped into an oasis of overgrown and hidden pathways filled with lots of roses and perennials and a tiny bridge. This home became a haven for their friend circle. They became known for their exuberant, multi-course, wine-paired, tasty menu dinner parties replete with Ernie and Greg's famous cooking. They built exactly the kitchen that they wanted, and their bacchanalian events were the stuff of legends. Ernie and Greg would take turns, one playing host while the other cooked the upcoming course. And this would go on for up to 10 courses. Oh my God, the bears don't even eat that much. These dinners would follow them to their home, the new home, a condo in Jersey City with a spiral staircase where they would invite other musicians over, and the evenings would often eventually devolve into a moment when Ernie would either sit down at the piano or pick up his guitar. This was pure Ernie in all of his joy. Ernie was at his best when he was swaddled in music. He loved the complexity, the math, the rigor, but probably most of all, the beauty. When he was working as an engineer, Ernie became an accomplished singer-songwriter, releasing 3 albums of his work, the last of which, Better Days, won him a Billboard Award for Best Unsigned Artist of the Year. Any other Billboard award? He also toured the country, performing at various, mostly bare, events. His beautiful and iconic tenor voice possessed an insane range, and it carried with it a pain and an ache that told of his years of growing up feeling that who he was would never be celebrated because of, well, who he was. It held in it a pain of losing his grandparents and watching his friends die of AIDS. It possessed a humility that was a window into Ernie and who he really was. Beyond that tough and overtly rational and sometimes caustic behavior. There was this kind and sweet, approachable person who yearned for a better world. In 2014, Greg and Ernie made a little trip to Seattle to see if the West Coast was for them. They fell in love with Seattle and almost moved there, but decided to swing down to Portland, just to check it out. And while in Portland, Ernie visited Rooster Rock. To know Ernie was to know all of Ernie. His natural state was completely naked, and he spent as much time naked as he could. Ernie had found a home in Portland. Rooster Rock had provided him with an opportunity to be naked, coupled with an unbelievable and unrivaled vista of natural beauty. It was music to his ears. I often say, I don't believe in heaven, but if it exists, I hope it's a lot like Rooster Rock. We would often sit. We would often sit under the 2 Oregon ash trees, talking about this is how it should be. Humans shouldn't have to hide behind clothes. All bodies should be celebrated. It was a little easier for Ernie to say than most of us. Good God, he was gorgeous. I mean, incredible body, eyes that would melt you, and those dimples. Couple that with wit and charm, and my God, none of us had a chance. But despite all this, Ernie never had even the slightest ego about his looks. He had an ego, sure, it was a healthy one, but when it came to bodies, Ernie had space for everyone. One of the constant refrains over the past week has been how Ernie made folks feel special. Whether he was telling you your voice was special, or your performance was special, or your body was special. He really did have a knack for making each one of us in this room, and countless others out there, feel special. We all knew he was the special one. It's the best photo op ever. Yeah, that was, unless, of course, you were standing on the other side of the ping pong table, or matched up in a game of darts, or throwing axes, because then you were his adversary. And he had a competitive streak that would make any professional athlete jealous. He loved to be pushed. He loved pushing himself beyond his own comfort zone, and was always appreciative when others took the time to push him as well. I suppose this is why we had the relationship that we did. In a world that was constantly telling Ernie, "You're brilliant," or "Oh God, you're gorgeous," or "Oh, you were so talented," I was that asshole. We constantly reminded him that he could do better. He hadn't reached his apex. There was still more left to do. We created 5 shows together. 2 installments of Under the Influence, The God Cluster, A Queer Pandemic Revenge Tragedy, The Pursuit of Happiness, and this fall we were slated to stage his newest musical, Bring Back the Swing. I directed him in his Grammy Award-winning performance of MC in Cabaret, a role which I, at one point in time, told him he would never be right for. He proved me wrong, I'm okay with that. I also directed him as Eddie Carbone in Arthur Miller's A View from the Bridge. He was constantly honoring his parents and his family in his work and his performances. Eddie Carbone was little more than a facsimile of his father, Ernie Sr. Hardworking, dedicated, complex, but with a deep love of his family that ultimately justified everything he did. And it was in visiting his parents at their home in Florida and watching them up on stage performing karaoke at the local Sons of Italy club and gatherings that Ernie got the idea for Bring Back the Swing. He loved watching his parents perform. He would often send me videos of them singing and make some crack about how this would be us in our old age. But you could tell. He was amazingly proud that both his parents were living their best lives and celebrating it with music. During their time in Portland, Ernie and Greg made so many friends. Really, Ross? Yeah, I think so. Okay. Yeah, it's evidenced by this crowd. It's too many to name. I've got a few lists coming up here, but I'm not getting everybody, and I really feel bad about that, but I don't know what to do about it, because I do feel like I need to say some names in this. Whether it was through their house parties, or the nights at the bar, board game nights, trivia nights, ping pong tournaments, Ernie circles were wide-ranging and oftentimes overlapping. So many people were special to Ernie, but sadly, you kind of had to be in his inner circle to really know it. He found muses in Sarah King, Jessica Tidd, Ruby Welch, Alec Lugo, Kate Faye Cummings, so many of us. I guess me. He wrote for us. And as performers, there is nothing more freeing than performing in a part that was written for you. He listened to us, he studied us, he dissected us, and then he put us back together in a new form on stage. I know exactly how grateful each one of us is for having this kind of care taken with our lives and our livelihoods. He was also a large part of the Bear community and the greater LGBTQIA+ community. On his nights off, he could often be found at the Eagle for Naked Pool Night, or mostly naked underwear night, or any random night that he could turn into a naked night. He loved to play video poker, much to my chagrin, and enjoyed libations in the most Dionysian way possible. He loved camping events, trivia nights, and any event that would gather friends together. Our immediate and close circle of friends, many of whom helped organize this event, thank you all, are Jason, Thaddeus, Mike, Greg, Austin, Dave, Eric, Joel, Kyle, Twitch, Eduardo, our whole trivia crew, the Glazed Donut Holes. That deserves your laughter. And of course, Tracy. She'll be speaking here in a little bit. Eduardo's daughter, Sophia. Sophia, are you here? Okay, great. Sophia will be speaking as well for us here in a little bit. But this is a list of names, and it is by no means exhaustive. Again, he had a way of making us all feel like we were special, and many of us in this room counted him as a dear friend. He was a staunch advocate for our entire community. Ernie openly recognized that he walked around through this life with a ton of privilege granted to him by the color of his skin and the gender he had chosen. We had numerous discussions around gender. He was easily one of the first people in my inner circle to actually work to use they/them pronouns for me, at least in a professional setting. We even had numerous discussions about his own journey with identifying as non-binary. He was always worried that he was taking something away from people who actually struggled with gender, even though I assured him that not every person who identifies as non-binary struggles in the same ways or to the same degrees. And it was in these discussions that Ernie and I consciously swung fuse from being an LGBTQIA+ organization to being a queer organization. In the word queer, we found an umbrella rather than a faction. And reclaiming that word was a way for us to give a middle finger to people who chased us and beat us up both mentally and physically, hurling that word at us as kids. And it was in these discussions that we cemented the notion that when gay men were the most in danger during the peak of the AIDS epidemic, it was trans people and lesbians who came to our aid. Now, however, gay men, especially white gay men, walk through life with more privilege. He saw this as a call to action to support and advocate for those people in our community who are the most at danger right now. And that is trans and non-binary people. I tell you all this not to glorify Ernie, although that is what I'm supposed to be doing, so why do I care? I care because he would hate it. That was Ernie. And I wanted to give you a window into this extremely passionate and kind and caring and giving person who was often hidden behind a shield of bravado and pride that protected that little young gay boy that was still hurting inside. On July 25th, 2024, Ernie became a lifesaver. I mean, he'd obviously made a practice of being a lifesaver during his time working as a respiratory therapist during COVID, a period in time that took more out of him than probably any of us will ever know. But on that night in July, I was having a hard time breathing, and my heart rate was through the roof. I couldn't make up my mind, if I was going to go to the emergency room, which we're all terrified of doing, or if I was going to try to get through the night, go to urgent care in the morning. I called Ernie, because I had that luxury, he was right next door. Asked him to come over and check me out. He walked in the door, took one look at me, and said, "Get your stuff, you're going to the hospital, I'm driving." He was wow. He was there for me when I needed it most. I mean, by everybody's assertion, Ernie saved my life. I would not have made it through that night. And I wish more than anything that I could repay that favor. Which brings us to atheism. Probably our greatest bond. I mean, most people think it's probably theater or being embarrassed, but honestly, it was the atheism. You all knew we'd get here. This is not a religious ceremony. Ernie would have killed us. I promise you, Ernie, I'm not looking up. I promise you, wherever you're at, this is as secular and rational as I can possibly make it. Ernie's atheism was devout. Oh, he hate me for saying that. It was a big part of what tied us together. It was also a big part of what turned a lot of people away. This was sad to me because I saw that Ernie loved to be challenged, and his many friends of his that were actually believers, the one common refrain was they were all just willing to sit in the room and challenge Ernie. I wish more people were willing to sit in the room and have the hard discussions. It seems like more and more we're living in a society that builds boundaries around the weakest parts of ourselves, thinking we're protecting them when in fact we are more likely just cutting them off from the scrutiny that steals them, in effect making them weaker. But the fact is that Ernie and I and many of us in this room grew up in a world that hated us. We saw the Anita Bryants on TV as kids. We watched in the 80s and 90s as the government did nothing to stop the senseless murdering of our friends. And we went to school with kids who bullied us. Sadly, the weapon that was wielded most often in all of those situations was religion. You're a sinner. You're not natural. God hates faggots. Growing up hearing these words activated the activist in both of us, and we spent as much time of our time together speaking out against it and creating art to fight it as we could. And as we enter this new era as we watch the rights being taken away from trans people. Oh, Stonewall. As we watch our right to be married once again being legislated, as we watch our community is once again ostracized, and our children are forced to endure the rhetoric that they are less than simply because of how they were born.
Drink water.
I just weep for probably the greatest champion of all of these causes that I've ever known. We needed him on the front. But I'm also willing to continue the fight, mostly because he would kill me if I did. Ernie lived an examined life. I'm stealing that line from my dear friend Maureen Porter, who described her late husband, the great Philip Como, in the same way. I think it's probably the greatest compliment a person can ever be given. He thought through everything extensively. He was both blessed and cursed with an overactive brain that relished in word games and math problems and physics and languages and drag names. He really did make the most of every breath he was given, and he filled his life with music, art, passion, and his patented Lijoi to the world. It's not lost on me that I don't think Ernie was ever really happy with the ending that we got to for The Pursuit of Happiness. We tried many. The first one was him showing up on video as the author as some Deus Ex Machina fashion to pull the whole thing together and put a bow on it. Not all of his ideas were great. We worked, we wrote, rewrote, and we fought. Oh, did we fight? Ernie saw the end as simply a blinding white light, and then nothing. This gave him peace. Scares the hell out of most of us, but to Ernie, this gave him peace. For up to him, the ending of that show probably would have been everybody on stage arguing, and then a white light, and then nothing. Cut off without an ending. An ending without making any sense out of anything. Cruel and unexplained, leaving everyone wondering if it was actually really over. But I fought him on this. I wanted an ending to a musical. I wanted a moral. I wanted it to come to a conclusion. I wanted the audience to walk away with something, and so I demanded rewrites right up until the very end. Because, as I said to him, and I've probably said to many of you in this room, I think we probably all feel this pretty fully today. Endings are hard. And boy, is this hard. I know firsthand how much this hurts and how it doesn't make any sense and how cruel it all seems. And if he were standing here right now, he would be the first to look me directly in the face and say, yeah, that's life. Science doesn't owe you sense. Endings are hard. As much as I want to say something poetic about how this isn't the end, this is a new beginning, my rational brain knows Ernie has left us. We will always have our memories, and yes, in those, to a degree, he definitely lives. But we will never have his laugh, his smile, those dimples. We will never be challenged to play along in a senseless word game that he makes up on the spot by his rules. We will never have to endure the creation of another drag name that isn't really a name. We'll never have to sit through broken Spanish or Mandarin. We will never have to listen to another monologue about the dangers of horoscopes. I'm actually going to miss that. Those things are gone. And I'm thankful that he is no longer suffering in that bed. And he will not need to endure a long rehabilitation process. That he'll never be met with the potential of never being able to sing again. Maybe not being able to write. Maybe not being able to perform. Most thankful, though, that he never had to know the passing of their dog, Lucas. I am thankful. I'm thankful because I know in my heart of hearts, he saw his white light, and he achieved his nothingness. I'm thankful he's at peace. And now, Matt Costelli. Matt, are you available over there? Mac has been the music director for many of Ernie's shows and has been a long-time compositional collaborator. He's going to share a song in Ernie's honor. It's one of Ernie's favorite songs from one of his favorite movies, Remember Me from Coco.
Evening, everyone. My name is Matt, and as Rusty said, Ernie and I collaborated on many of his songs, and I will get through this. I was thinking over the past week of what to say, and who knows, right? But I guess I'll start here. Ernie and I actually met over in that room. We were playing an AIDS benefit concert together, and I was one of 3 pianists that night who were there cycling through all the performers, and Ernie was the last to come check in with me about his song. Like, wouldn't you want? I have no idea who this person is, but he said the song. He's like, it'll be fine. I'm like, it's your song though. Like, I want to get it. So, and get through everybody. Ernie strides in, and he's like, just play it how you feel. And I kind of connected with the words of it. But as soon as he came in, the first time I'd ever heard him sing, I thought, this is real talent. And what a privilege it is to be next to somebody with this much talent, who has endured so much, whose words are so true because of that. And we played that song together, and he turns to me and he's like, I like the way you play my song. I thought that was one of the greatest compliments I'd ever received in all of what I've done in my life. And he said, hey, I'm doing a show later this year. Do you want to be my music director? And I said, I'll do anything for you anytime. And that's when we picked up with putting Pursuit of Happiness to masterclass. And we workshopped it that year. Pandemic put it off, and we finally mounted it in 2023 now it's been. And we'll get to another song that I connected with. First song that I heard from that show, which Alec will come out and sing at some point. But now I'll tell you about a different story. So a few years, or I guess later that year, we're playing another benefit concert together. This is at the Funhouse Lounge. If any of you have been to the Funhouse Lounge, shout out to Funhouse Lounge, baby. And there was a lot of performers on that program as well. And I really wanted to sing something in Spanish because of the night, of the theme of the night. I really wanted to do it in Spanish, but my Spanish sucked. And I don't know if it's gotten any better since then, but I had chosen this song, and I chickened out. And I let the coordinator know, like, hey, I don't think I can do this song. I want to change it to this song, which I felt more comfortable with in Spanish. And she was like, great, let's do it. And I thought, no one's going to know. No one's going to know. No one's going to know. It's going to be fine. So we get up there, and I said, well, I've changed my song. Here's what I'm going to sing now. And from the very back of the room, I hear this faint voice in the Funhouse Lounge go, oh, but I love Coco. Oh, shit. So I missed an opportunity to play Ernie. What I didn't know was one of his favorite songs. And so I'm going to do a part tonight in English and part in Espanol. My Spanish has not gotten better, I'm going to reiterate that, but I'm going to do my best for Ernie. Remember me, though I have to say goodbye. Remember me. Don't let it make you cry. For even if I'm far away, I hold you in my heart. I sing a secret song to you each night we are apart. Remember me, though I have to travel far. Remember me, each time you hear a sad guitar. Know that I'm with you the only way that I can be, until you're in my arms again. Remember me. Recuérdame, hoy me tengo que ir, mi amor, recuérdame. No llores, por favor, te llevo en mi corazón y cerca me tendrás. A solas yo te cantaré soñando en regresar. Recuérdame, aunque tengo que emigrar, recuérdame. Si mi guitarra es llorar, know that I'm with you the only way that I can be. Until you're in my arms again. Recuérdame.
Thanks, Mac. I do want to take this moment to let everyone know that we are also planning having a celebration of Ernie's music and his work during the Outright Festival, probably in June this year. We're still finalizing the details, but our hope is to have a long list of Portland's favorite performers, as well as some of the folks from far, far away to join us and sing songs and read selections of his work. And now, Tracy Taggart, Ernie's longtime friend and honestly his medical advocate during his stay in the hospital, would like to share a few words with us.
And my dear friend Rusty has done a great job of capturing so much of who Ernie was, where he came from, the paths his life took, his talents, his passions. So I'm not going to talk about all that. I want instead to paint a picture of the things about him that I'm going to remember. Little details that endeared him to me and will keep him alive in my heart forever. I met Ernie in a scuba trip in Bon Air in October of 2014, right after they moved here to Portland. And he was sitting in the shade going over a script for the last days, which was the first show that he and Rusty worked together on. We started talking about Portland, and I lived in Portland, and he just moved to Portland, and Ernie was very excited to have found such a warm community, and also to be able to tie into the theater community so quickly. And we talked about a lot of things, and we hit it off really right away. Probably because we're both Libras. You know, a lot of it, over those next few days, it was a week-long scuba trip, a big gay scuba trip every year. Then we said, okay, well, we need to connect when we get back to Portland. You know? So we did, and after a few first dates, Ernie and Greg quickly became not only dear friends, but family to me, and introduced me to so many of you. Ernie and I used to joke that we kept finding so many things that were in common. We used to joke sometimes that we were basically the same person. You know, I had found somebody who shared so many of the same ideas and passions and joys that I did. And he had succeeded at a lot of things I had always dreamed about. Music and theater were such a huge part of his life, and that was something that I had stuck aside and pursued other things, like medicine. That'll take up your time, let me tell you. But then he in turn would tell me, God, you know, I used to think I should go to medical school. Maybe I should go to medical school. Maybe I should have done that. And we talked about it a lot, and he ended up finally actually going to school to be a respiratory therapist. And so he got to do that. Maybe I'll get to do what I dreamed up to do. He was always sneaking around the house. I lived with Ernie and Greg a couple of different times, periods of time. Even when I didn't live with them, we spent a lot of time together. And he was always singing around the house. He played piano in the morning, even before coffee, which people are you know that he really loved playing the piano. If he would do it before he drank coffee, didn't do much else before that. Sometimes even put on clothes. I remember the first time I went to their house and up on the hill, I was coming by for something in the afternoon, and I rang the doorbell, and Ernie answered the door, and he peeked around the edge, and he goes, "Oh, it's just you." And like Rusty said, he loved to be naked. But he was also very, encouraging other people being naked, as Greg Kirk can attest. One time we were having a big party at their house, and a couple of us were hanging out in the hot tub at the end of the night. And somebody ran out of wine, and I said, "Well, I'll go get some wine. There's a bottle on the counter in the kitchen." And so I got up out of the hot tub, and I was looking around for a robe, and Ernie goes, "Oh, just go ahead and go in. Just go in naked." And I was like, "Okay." And so I went walking through the house, and Greg Kirk, I hear him on the couch. She's naked! I still blame Ernie for that. He loves silly socks. We usually can only find one of each pair at a time. Always wear mismatched socks. One of the things I love to do for Ernie is make soup. I love to cook. We cook together a lot, but I would often, what are you going to cook? Oh, I'm just putting this and this together. And he'd come into the kitchen and he'd be like, that's soup. I don't eat soup. I don't like soup. And I was like, okay, then don't eat it. And then he would eat it and he would say, now this soup I like. It's one of the joys of my life.
Because you didn't make them anything different.
I don't know if you noticed, but his favorite animal was a giraffe. He burst into tears first time he saw a giraffe in the wild. We were in Kenya. He saw the giraffes and he just started bawling. Of course, he also bawled over the Great British Baking Show. Basically just a sap. Most of you probably know he was a competitive ping pong player. Rusty talked about that too, but he, as Rusty said, was competitive at other things. Like rummy cube. We used to play rummy cube, and if I ever beat him, we had to keep playing. That's 2 out of 3. That's 4 out of 5. Because he was so competitive about it. He loves Sondheim, of course. Everybody knows that. You heard the letter and all those stories, but he also loved Queen and Journey and Bon Jovi. Maybe you wouldn't admit it out loud. But, we spent many nights, into the wee hours of the morning, much to Greg's dismay, and often after Greg had gone to bed, belting out, drinking wine and belting out 80s rock ballads. He loved to cook. I always loved the kitchen a mess. He always left his key fob and often his wallet in his car. He loved to party and could always be counted on to invite way more people than you ever planned because he just didn't want anybody to be left out. After I left Portland, whenever I was coming to town, the first thing he always said to me was, let's have people over. And the second thing was, when are you going to come? He was an atheist, in case you didn't know. But his portrayal of Jesus filled the house night after night, brought the audience to tears, and it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. He loved language. He was fluent in Spanish. His accent was terrible. So bad. He was pretty, but he wasn't vain. Ernie was full of life. He was dynamic, brilliant, stubborn, creative, talented, funny, exasperating, sexy, kind, and told me once after several glasses of wine that I was both a huge huge inspiration and a terrible influence. Like, same, buddy. He was my friend, playmate. He was my brother.
Thanks, Tracy. One of the songs that you will definitely be hearing at the celebration that we do in June is a song that Ernie wrote for the pursuit of happiness. Alec Lugo played Clark, a believer who had gone through conversion therapy as a child for being gay. Alec? Hello, everyone.
Right.
Hi. As Max said, hi, my name's Alec Lugo.
I didn't say that.
I fuck up intros all the time. Have we sworn yet in this? My name's Alec Lugo. I was a friend of Ernie's. I got to perform in 2 of his musicals and perform alongside him in cabaret, as well as in readings, I'm sure, just in life. As Max said, this song was the first song that Ernie asked you for advice on, and in turn, Ernie told me many, many a time that he always saw me playing this part and singing this song. Ernie met me way before I ever met Ernie. And that sounds creepy, but what I mean by that is Rusty directed me when I was in college at Pacific University at a production of Romeo and Juliet, in which I played the nurse in drag. And to anyone who knows me nowadays, I am now, one of my career things that I do is I am a drag performer as Case of Mondays, which I think I am grateful for Ernie did not come up with. Ernie saw me in that production of Romeo and Juliet, and to my surprise, I also saw Ernie in a production of his own musical, Under the Influence, back when I was still in college, when Rusty was teaching at the school. And I saw that show, and it was so interesting to know that, similarly, we were like ships passing in the night, not having known that we knew each other, but that our fates would cross, and that we would be good friends and collaborators. And I think the first time that Rusty ever saw me, I was in drag, and it is to my understanding that one of the last times that Ernie ever saw me was when I was at their home at a photo shoot with his husband Greg, when I was in full drag, and Rusty would continuously comment on how you're already so much as yourself. I don't think I can handle you in drag.
I didn't say that. It was Ernie.
Ernie, I'm so sorry. Rusty would never say that. It was Ernie. And
I would say that, but
but Rusty would say it. No, but Ernie always commented on how he saw so much of himself in me. And I never really knew how to take that initially, because he was so smart and charismatic and wonderful and talented and incredible. And I just was not able to accept that as a compliment at the time, when I was so young, just a young gay man growing up. But he would always say it. He believed in me. He wrote things for me to sing. He wanted me in shows. He wanted to see me grow. That's what Ernie wanted for people. Ernie wanted to see people grow. And I remember I came to a rehearsal of The Pursuit of Happiness, the musical that this song is from. And I had just seen a orchestra perform a song cycle about the tragedy of Matthew Shepard, if everyone is familiar. And of course I was familiar with the story, and it really touched me. It was really hard to listen to. And then I had to go to a rehearsal for The Pursuit of Happiness, where we were blocking our song, this song called Disappearing, in which a young man is attacked, or is recalling an attack that happened to him by a fence.
And I just don't know what had happened in my brain that made me not think about that connection. It just made me feel so grateful that I had people like Ernie in my life who believed in me, who believed in people, and who wrote these stories. And I'm even more fortunate to be able to get to perform his work. This song is called Disappearing. We were 16 years old in a park, in a clearing of trees. We were young and alive and afraid, hoping nobody sees. Both of us did, and both of us danced. Suddenly, everything all making sense. You and I, face to face, with my back to the fence, and the fit of your coat, and the shape of your chin, and the lump in my throat, and the tone of your skin, and your hand on my back, and the slowing of time, and my limbs go slack, and this feeling like I for that one perfect moment of life when the doubt melts away. Disappearing in the clearing for the first and last time in my life. I thought, I'll be okay. We were 16 years old in a park, in a clearing of trees, when the hay and the herd of brought us down to our knees. Suddenly voices, both angry and tense, suddenly nothing at all making sense. You and I facing them with our backs to the fence, and it turns on a dime with the tear in your coat, and the stopping of time, and the hand on my throat, and the boot on my back, and the blood on your chin, and my world going black where I truly begin. Disappearing, when the head and the hurt of the world is too much to be faced. Disappearing in the clearing, thinking maybe it's better if people like me are erased. So they send you away, where you pray to be healed, and the lies become truth, and the truth is concealed in that part of yourself by the fence in the field. Well, he never stood up, and he never moved on. He just fades out of view until one day he's gone. Till this pillar of light that you're standing upon all comes crashing down all around. And you find yourself back in the park by the fence on the ground. At the scene of the crime of a brutal attack, where you're frozen in time with that boot on your back, and the blood on your coat, and the tear in your skin, and your hand on her throat. But it's time to begin reappearing, and start clearing away all those decades of doubt and unease. Reappearing in the clearing, where I open my eyes and I see that it's time to stand up and break free. But a part of me might always be 16 years old, in a park, in a clearing of trees.
I'm that asshole. I went to all these people and said, would you come and talk and sing? And, oh, I don't know if it's torture or not. But God, it's beautiful. Thanks, Alec.
You're welcome.
Okay, time for Papa. Greg Kerr, Papa to the universe. That's what you were for.
Hey, Daddy.
I don't know how I'm supposed to talk after disappearing and remember me, to be honest. I've been breathing so much I'm about to hyperventilate. So, my name is Greg, the other Greg, as I'm also known. And I wrote Ernie a letter. I'm fully aware of the irony of writing you a letter, knowing that you won't hear this. But let me have my monologue for a few minutes, please. For starters, let me start by saying, I'm really fucking irritated with you. You kind of ruined 2025 already, and the year has barely even started. You do realize you didn't have to do all this to get all this attention today. We had a lot of other things we could be doing today, you know, like laundry and taxes. But whatever, here we are. Here to talk and laugh and cry about you. It's about you today. And let's be honest, wasn't it always about you? I first met you via the internet.
I don't remember how many years ago, and I don't remember which website it was, but you and I became connected as gays did in the 2000s. We met in person for the first time in 2011 at a crowded bar in Provincetown. A few drinks in, and I recognized you and Greg, and I walked up and said, "Hi, I'm Greg." "I'm Ernie." "Hey, I'm also Greg." And that was the extent of our conversation. I was really nervous and kind of starstruck. I had known of you way more than I actually knew you. You and Greg, in my mind, were the New York gay bear royalty to me. I have this vision of what y'all's life must have been like. The Manhattan parties, the theater outings, the important people you'd know, the fashion, the food, your New York friends who were all somebodies. You were all larger than life, and you were definitely one of a kind. This was how I saw you. And since I lived 2,000 miles away on the other side of the country, in a city that is absolutely nothing like New York, I thought I'd never see you again. It would be a while before I learned you actually lived in New Jersey. A few years later, you sent me a message about visiting Portland. You and Greg were scoping out places to live. Portland? Our gritty little city where it's always raining, with a fraction of the highbrow things that I assumed you were used to? You were considering Chicago, okay, Seattle, and Portland. Well, okay, if you say so. It seemed y'all deciding on living in Seattle, but the next thing I know, Austin and I are having burgers and tater tots with you and Greg, and we were doing our best to upsell our city, which was currently infamous thanks to a show named Portlandia. I remember saying, yes, there's more truth to that show than you'd think. Thinking the weirdness of this town would be a selling point. Austin mentioned naked pool nights at the Eagle, and I remember that little spark in your eye. Naked pool what? Later you would return for a visit, which happened to be on my 50th birthday. So we invited you to our house for a big party where you probably met a lot of the guys in this room for the first time. This also happened to be the same night as the World Naked Bike Ride. And for those who don't know, this is when 9,000 naked Portlanders ride through the streets, protesting big oil and supporting body self-acceptance. You can only imagine how he went out of his mind. You did love to be naked, of course, especially in public, so this was an evening of bliss for you, and I think this was when we all could agree you found your tribe. You would often tell me that I was the reason y'all moved to Portland. My party, the people you had met, and the naked bike ride with the bouncy boobs and floppy wieners sealed the deal. It wouldn't be long before you bought that house on the hill and fell in Portland yourself. Being naked at Rooster Rock, the hippie liberal bubble, the food scene, the beer, your theater family with views. It became the life you didn't know you wanted but loved. It wasn't New York, but it was something greater. It was becoming home. When I heard you had your heart attack, I was numb. Not you, not Ernie. How, why, when, what? I was standing at my sister's house, getting ready to fly home, frozen with my knees locked, reading the message over and over again. My mind couldn't process this, and in a way it still hasn't. I needed to get home. I needed to be close to Greg, to Austin, to the guys. I wanted to be close by when you woke up so I could yell at you for scaring us. I wanted to be around for when you started brainstorming about how you were going to immortalize this ordeal into some sort of theater. I wanted to tell you that you had a smart attack, because surely this would have resulted in a fantastical award-winning production. And I'd also joked that your new drag name should be Miley Cardio Infarction. Yes, fartchin, because fartchins are fun. I wanted to hear you laugh and tell me how stupid that sounded, but that you still loved it. So for any of this to happen, you needed to wake up. We needed you back on your feet so you can never let us forget that I had that smart attack. And then laugh at our not this story again eye rolls. I guess we always don't get what we want. The next few weeks you took us on quite the theatrical journey. Yes and no, better and worse, not today, maybe tomorrow, this tube, that tube, this machine, that machine, encouragement, discouragement. I still had a sliver of hope that somehow we'd pass a corner and you'd wake up. And even though there was much to recover from, I longed to read your weekly, "What's everyone doing tonight?" texts. And me telling Austin that Ernie has yet another show we need to go to. As we all know, you didn't believe in the other side, whatever that may be. So when it was time for your body to stop fighting, you would have known that was it. I have come to picture this as a metaphysical final bow, exiting the stage, naked of course, leaving an empty spotlight and a silent, shocked audience. So here we are today, together in grief. None of us have yet to grasp what the road ahead of us will look like. We won't get over it, but we will get through it together. Tomorrow your parents head home, and we go back to our Monday little lives, going to work, doing laundry and taxes, going to the gym, probably taking our hearts a little more seriously now, vacuuming our houses, shopping for stupid groceries, looking at each other, exhausted and wondering what the hell just happened. There will now be an inescapable void of where you were, and it'll be sad. We will miss you, and it will be impossible for us to forget you. But at some point in the future, somewhere down the line, the frozen burden of losing you will slowly be replaced by the joy of knowing you. And how you affected us, influenced us, changed us. We're all better people because of you. You were the loud, effervescent stone that hit the pond, sending ripples across the water as far as the eye can see. And we're all grateful for that. Personally, you always made me feel like I was the most important person in the room, reminding me of my beauty and worth when I was down on myself. As much as it was about you, you always made it about us. Perhaps that's why so many of us love you. You probably knew on some level that when it was time to surrender, that your tribe and your Greg would be safe, cared for, and supported. He would be without you, but he will not be alone. We are relentless when it comes to supporting each other. I was right when I said you were larger than life and one of a kind. And to this day, I am still a little starstruck. I am fortunate to have called you one of my closest friends. You were unapologetically Ernie. You were our Ernie, you were my Ernie. And I will love you and miss you for all of my days. Love, Greg. The other Greg.
And now you know why we call him Papa. All right, folks, it's your turn. And don't make this awkward, people. If we were in any other place, I wouldn't have to coach you one bit in order to tell me a story about Ernie, so do not be shy. Right? Let's share some of those memories. We'll call this part of the celebration the Ernie Logs. Yes? We'll start with a group share, but first we're going to start with Eduardo. Sorry, Eduardo. Eduardo Martinez Zapata's daughter, Sophia, reading a letter from Eduardo. And once she has finished, just raise your hand, and either Pete or I will bring you a microphone. If you're in the bays here, if you want to step forward, if you'd like to say something. If you're in the audience seated, we'll just bring the microphone to you. Just go ahead and raise your hand. Sophia? Hi. Come on down.
Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm Eduardo's daughter. My brother Doug having this here too. First I want to say, Ernie will always be Jesus to me. That was a very, family-oriented, Jesus Christ starts everything to my family. So to see my dad's bestie playing Jesus was pretty iconic. My dad asked me to share a bit about Ernie and about how he was feeling, so I will just read what he had to say. Not unlike all of you here, the premature death of my dear friend Ernie tore my heart to shreds. My deepest condolences to you all, especially to his husband and wonderful friend Greg, and to his loving parents Gigi and Ernie Sr. I will need to learn to celebrate the grief of losing Ernie. Without this celebratory attention, grief is not much more than unpleasant pain. Our memories of Ernie's gifts to us deserve that kind of celebratory attention, which I think we're all doing a great job of today. I met Ernie during a fortuitous evening at the Eagle Bar here in North Portland. In his gregarious form, he approached me as I ordered a drink and casually introduced himself. No awkward come-ons, no unsolicited advances, no silly jokes. It was just an honest, "Hi, I'm Ernie, what's your name?" The simplicity of his introduction was welcome, with all of his charm included. Little did I know this was the beginning of an in-depth friendship, which we both appreciated and got a lot out of. Shortly after meeting him, I was introduced to the talented piano player and musician during my first visit to his and Greg's home. He was also introduced to me, a recently separated and divorced father of two. Hi. Believing I was becoming his gay self. He immediately learned my disdain for everything normal. For example, the incessant culture of everything nice. Like me, he wasn't a fan of our daily conformity to politics as usual or politics of status quo. He delved into these questions with me and without fear. We discussed and debated the intersection of race and sexuality, gender and class. We often discussed intersectionality way before it became the buzzword du jour. These conversations were what brought me close to Ernie. His interest was in a deeper understanding of racism through its institutionalization. This made my brain tick and my emotions quake. He gave me the gift of asking why, how, when, and where about something I have lived daily since childhood. He gifted me the time and space for questions crucial to my being. Ernie openly shared his care and compassion for the less fortunate and the oppressed, which, as a gay man, he was very familiar with. And I will appreciate that forever. We also shared a disdain for society, as it were. One of my favorite memories was our debate over nihilism. We wanted to understand our skepticism for society and if anything even matters. For both of us, seeing ourselves as nihilists was a very romantic notion. Perhaps it was our easy justification of our conformities. I'm not sure we reached an agreement on nihilism, but that's exactly what I will miss the most about Ernie. So many conversations, debates, and adventures to finish and start. In the end, I don't believe either one of us could really be a nihilist. We care too much about shit. Ernie often came to me to consult on his lyrics or his playwriting or about casting choices or the tone on sensitive topics. I felt valued and respected by Ernie. He listened and asked further questions every time. Now, I won't spend too much time on our mutual love affair with racket sports, tennis and ping pong in particular, but suffice it to say that while it was unparalleled fun to play, win or lose, the beer drinking was likely the main motivator. Salud, Ernie! There are so many examples and moments lived with Ernie that I value and treasure, from impromptu 16-mile hikes starting at his front door in Forest Park, to Rooster Rock beach days in our birthday suits, to being a soundboard to his music or theater creations, to the generosity he and Greg shared with me and others. Ernie's generosity towards me as I transitioned out of a straight marriage into the complexities of the gay world went beyond financial gifts and support. From inclusion in the aspects of his gay world to allowing me to crash at his house month after month without expecting or asking for a dime. That's also a personal huge thank you to Ernie and Greg for that one. Ernie, I'm so sorry that you can't hear this, but I am eternally grateful for the friendship we enjoyed. I am just beginning to internalize the fact that you are forever gone. It will be a very hard task to accomplish without you, but it will be very full of wonderful memories of you. Salud, mi amigo, bottoms up with a nice and bitter IPA. I love you, rest in loud applause. You are a masterpiece and beautifully unique work.
Anybody? Yeah, Dave. Go to Rick, Dave.
I wasn't going to talk, but hearing all these stories made me think of another story I wanted to say. But also, first of all, I hope everybody has taken the time to see all the photos that have played, which are this much of his life. That I want to thank people who provided those photos for me. I edited the videos together. I apologize for probably a lot of me in there. Sorry. And I had probably more. I probably could have put in there if I had taken another month. It would have been probably 3 times as many photos in there. It was lovely. So, but the story I really want to tell really quickly that Rusty reminded me of. He railed against astrology. A lot of us know this. So we were at the Eagle, which all of these stories tend to begin as. This is one I can tell it's not. It's in this company, it's fine. And we were talking, and we met this guy. This person was standing there, and we were chatting, and we were kind of infatuated with him. And then this guy looked at him and said, "So what's your sign?"
Poor child.
I slinked away because I did not want to see his I feel like, oh, this guy has no idea what he's getting himself into. But Ernie did not lay into him like he would to us who he knew really well. He was gentle about it enough to say, I don't think that that's a thing we should talk about, and he kind of moved on. And I think that was a little bit of a testament to actually some restraints, but with us around our group, that was a big debate about the belief of astrology. It's not belief. It's wrong, all these things. Anyway, that was just a moment that made me realize that he can have these convictions, but he could hold back and not eviscerate anybody. The other thing that made me realize, listening to everybody talk, and all these letters you're all saying to him, is telling him how much we loved him. That stuff shouldn't have to wait for this kind of a moment. So if we can learn a lesson from this, is to tell people you love them now, overly, make it uncomfortable. It's okay.
I love you, Dave.
Thank you.
Way to make it awkward.
When he was in the hospital, we all had opioid breakup. And I sent him a text. And I said, for when you're awake, I don't tell you often enough how much I love and I'm glad you're in my life. And stop scaring us, okay? Yeah, we won't get to see it. So tell everybody that you love them now and don't wait. Thank you.
So I met Greg and Ernie in 2003 at Southern Days at a guest house, at my friend's guest house. And of course, I met Ernie naked. And it's kind of amazing that I've known Ernie and Greg that long. And in 2005, I moved to New Jersey, and I was welcomed by Ernie and Greg to their Edgewater home. Went to many soirees there. My favorite one is, of course, when you redid the kitchen, and you had this party where everyone was supposed to bring a pole for the kitchen. Ernie, of course, referred to this as the knob party. And, in this typical swirl. Then, when Ernie and Greg moved to Portland, Ernie had posted, I think probably on Facebook, something about, hey, we need somewhere to stay.
and we'll do whatever, couch surf, whatever. I took him at his word that they would be willing to couch surf. So they came to the house we were renting at the time, and I pointed to the convertible sofa, and I said, there's where you're sleeping. They only lasted a couple weeks, and they said, we gotta go somewhere. And of course, I cannot remember the name of their dog at the time. Cooper, that's right. Cooper, of course, was blind and deaf, and I'm sure confused as hell, like, why am I here in this house? But, you know, just one last thing, and we all know Ernie sometimes can push things a little much. And we had a falling out. I would probably think I had a falling out because Ernie probably forgot about it in a day or two. But the thing to know about Ernie is the next time we saw him, it was like nothing happened. He just started talking. Hey, Mike, how you doing? I haven't seen you. And that was part of his charm. He just made you feel comfortable, for the most part. And he had a lot of love and forgiveness in his heart. And that's something I'll always remember. I found out about his passing. I was in San Diego last weekend at a taqueria, and I'm reading Greg's post, and I'm like, I can't fall apart here. So, but it was, you know, still processing it. He's one of those people you think are going to live forever. And I'm just sorry he's gone. That's it. Thank you.
Chris? Chris, you hold yours, and then we'll let Bobby go, and then we'll have you.
Okay, sure.
Great. Bobby, you go ahead.
I go first.
Yep, you go ahead.
All right.
Hi everyone, my name's Robbie. I knew Ernie for 10 years. I was at an event, Ernie was at an event, and I wanted to tell him a secret that I had. A secret that I haven't told anybody yet. So I go up to Ernie, he's strumming his guitar, handsome as ever, the most handsome man I've ever seen. And I said, Ernie, I got something I want to tell you because I think you are so kind and wonderful from all our Facebook interactions. And I said, I'm trans. He looked at me and he goes, no shit. And then he goes, good for you. Then he hugged me and then we made out. Exist Loudly by Robbie Parker Boyles. Dear Ernie, we are here to celebrate your life and the measure of its worth, and every single life you touched while you were here on this earth. We wish to pay our last respects, and that's why we're all here. Thanks for teaching me to live and exist loudly, and for, thank you, showing me how to be queer. You meant so much to all of us. You're special and that's no lie. You brighten up the darkest day and even the greatest sky. Our friendship is forever. Until death did we part. And although you're away physically, you are always and forever in my heart.
Chris, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name's Chris, and I met Greg and Ernie in that brief period that was mentioned where they were in Jersey City in this fabulous apartment with the spiral staircase, Cooper the dog, and they friended me in real life because I wasn't on any social media at the time. And we've been friends ever since. And there's nothing that, sorry. Last year, I came out to stay for a few days, and I walked out, and Ernie and I were having morning coffee together, and I said, you know, Ernie, as I get older, I feel like more and more of a curmudgeon. We need a word for curmudgeon for the girls. And I said, what do we think? Curmudgeoness. And he looked right at me and he said, you're a hermudgeon. And I was so mad because it was right there. I got to have that eggplant when some notable Supreme Court decisions came out. I got to perform my favorite of all the weddings I've performed, seated around the table. When I close my eyes, I think of Ernie preparing zucchini blossoms out of the backyard out here. He was trying them in different ways and wanted my feedback. And I suffered through the experience of all these delicious zucchini blossoms prepared in different ways. I think of him sitting at the piano singing In My Life by the Beatles with two of us drinking a glass of wine, and I sang along with us. When you meet people where you feel at home, really truly in your heart know you are at home with them, when you meet people like that, it's really special. And I have always felt at home with Greg and Ernie. And Greg, I will be here and I love you. I have to fly back, but I will fly back in a millisecond, in a New York minute. So I'm out there, I'm in New York, and I also, try to friend others in real life. I don't know that I'll ever be able to do it the way Ernie did it. But if you're out my way, please, let's have a drink and talk about our friend Ernie. Okay, I love you all. Thank you.
No, Ernie, you can't sing it.
Very much. This is not going to be very easy, but I put myself in the first moment that I saw him. And I still love him, and I never will. And now, he'll be in my heart and my wife's heart forever. I want to thank you all for this wonderful time that you're giving Jacob and for being part of his life and sharing with us your part of his life. Thank you all. I can't say anymore. Thank you.
Go ahead with two more. We got Derek and Michael.
Hi, my name is Derek. I first encountered Ernie in 2010 in Provincetown, and he was being handed amongst some roommates of mine in our condo because he was on a towel from Urban Outfitters. Naked, of course. We all wanted that towel. Anyway, fast forward to, and actually I spoke like 2 words with him once at the pier or whatever, but it wasn't much. But then fast forward to Greg's 50th birthday party, and it's also my birthday. We share the same thing. I think I was 30 or something like that, maybe. But anyway, there was Ernie. You're the guy from the towel. And we started talking, and then we both found out that we were both musicians, and we really, I'm a composer, a classical composer, and a singer, but he's other things, musical theater, so it was very different, but we also just had all these things that we wanted to talk about, and talked, and just over the years became great friends, and became friends with Ernie, with Greg as well, and they would always invite me to whenever I even gave a hint that I wanted to come to Portland, they'd stay with us, and so generous. And I can remember a lot of Ernie's great works, starting from just little tiny snippets, and I got to watch them and listen to them evolve into these amazing works, and got to talk to Ernie about his process, and he would also ask me what I thought. He was very collaborative. He would ask the people around him what things needed to happen or what people thought. I broke down into tears when they first started the disappearing, because originally the first few notes in the piano were an octave lower, and I was like, oh, wouldn't that sound great higher? And I was like, oh, right, Derek, and now I'm part of Ernie, and all of us are part of Ernie, and it's humbling, and it's something that it'll cherish my entire life. So.
So I moved to New York City, New Jersey. I just for meeting Greg would be big. But while I was there, I became very good friends and really chosen families with this couple, George and Cass, who took over the mantle of those Bacchanalian parties of yours after you left. And so when I was moving to Portland in 2019, they were like, oh, you have to meet Greg and Ernie, introduced us online. Very quickly got to know a lot of the people in this room because of those connections, getting invited to things. And then it was 2020, it was the middle of the pandemic, and I forget who had the idea, but a couple of us ended up in this dinner party where once a week we would all meet in this park, and do the little like, okay, I'm gonna put that right there, and then run away, we're all gonna trade. And today, as I was running my errands, I realized that I was at that corner where I got to experience Bianca Parr and all of the wonderful cooking, and it just all came rushing back to me. I'm so thankful for everything that they gave to the community, that they gave to art. I'm just really glad I got to experience everything.
I know there are 1,000 stories, and I know that there are probably more people who want to talk, but unfortunately, we have to get our Disruptor Theater back so they can continue to hang lights and continue to put sound in. So we're going to wrap this up here, folks. We're in the waning part of this. Oh, Rusty, you do this for a living. Oh, dear. Okay, thank you all for sharing there. And we're going to bring tonight to a close by inviting our good friend and longtime collaborator. He played Howard Smith, or Ward Smith, or Word Smith. See how Ernie did. In the musical, The Pursuit of Happiness. Brian Berger, come on up here. Sing us that 11 o'clock number Ernie wrote for the show entitled A Perfect Story.
Yeah, I probably do. I'm neurodivergent, so I was like, this is the speaking microphone, and this is the singing microphone. So I was actually originally planning on switching between them, but I'm just going to be here. So Ernie and I met in 2016 doing a production of Jesus Christ Superstar. Ernie, of course, very famously played Jesus in that, and I played Herod. Ernie once told me that he was able to keep a straight face during the entire production, except for the one time that I tweaked his nipples. And so I made sure to do that every night. Ernie and I were not the kind of friends who saw each other every week or even necessarily every year, but when we did, it was like no time had passed. And it wasn't until 2023 when we did The Pursuit of Happiness that
I really got to know him, and I realized that he is the old gay bear that this straight boy wants to grow up to be. Ernie and I shared a hatred of astrology, and more importantly, a love of science and music, which are the same thing in a lot of ways. Science is the art of learning about the world, and music is the science of imprinting ourselves upon it. When we originally were auditioning and getting together to do The Pursuit of Happiness in 2020, I was actually originally playing a different role. I was originally playing the role of Emery, which Ernie is the one who ended up playing that role. Because nobody, one of the important plot points of that is in fact a hatred of soup. And nobody could fake a hatred of soup like Ernie. I myself, as I said, I'm neurodivergent, I have ADHD, and one of the things about me is that whenever I do a musical, by the time, or just a show in general, by the time the show is closing, I'm pretty ready to be done with it. I'm ready to move on. It's like my attention just needs to focus on something else, and the one show where that was not the case was The Pursuit of Happiness. I sincerely believe that The Pursuit of Happiness, particularly the songs Disappearing and Denial, are some of the greatest songs in the musical theater canon. And this is another song from that musical that I dearly love. It's called A Perfect Story.
What a perfect story, beginning with hello. What a perfect story from the go. What a perfect story, the middle one's intense. What a perfect story, such suspense. Happy or sad, perfect stories all depend on a beginning, a middle, and of course, an end. What a perfect story, it ended with goodbye. What a perfect story, you and I. Happy or sad, perfect stories break your heart. If the living and the learning means we grow apart, very hard. If that perfect story doesn't go as planned, we will live and learn and grow to understand, and we will face the ending hand in hand.
So I gotta thank every single one of you. This has been very healing. And it's been healing for me, I know that for a fact. I hope for Greg or for Ernie Sr. and Chi-Chi, and all of us. Obviously, please keep an eye out for that celebration that we're going to have in June. Plug away. And there are just, I need to give a few thank yous before we get out of here. We knew we didn't have a lot of time to set up in here, and so I was like, just keep it small, guys, just keep it small. And Joel did this. And Joel not only did this, but Joel did all of the food that was available. And somehow got it all together. I really honestly don't know how. It was kind of miraculous. Obviously, Thaddeus and Mike over manning the Zoom stream and the live feed. We really appreciate it. And everybody who helped out. Twitchy, thanks for the pictures. Everybody who lended a hand getting this together. It's been really special. And I hope everybody here feels that someone questioned whether or not we should have this at Artist Rep, and maybe there were other options and so on and so forth. And Mallory said to me, it just seems right that we send Ernie off in a theater. And I think that's right. It's really poetic that it's actually mid-process. Because I will tell you very, I just know that the process was the funnest for him. That was when he was really enjoying himself. Once again, thank you to Artist Rep. Thank you, Mallory. Thank you, Maddie, for helping us out so much and getting this thing set up. I'm certain that there are other folks that I should be thanking right now, and I just don't have the bandwidth anymore. That's it, folks. Thank you so much for coming out tonight.
Yeah.